Joining us now is Shannon Martinez, a former white supremacist who is now a fellow for the Polarization and Extremism Research Innovation Lab, also known as Peril, at American University. Shannon, thank you so much for joining us this morning because this has really put something like this at the forefront of the national conversation. When you look at what this suspect wrote online, what he said, these online hateful screeds that he had, and I wonder what stands out to you given your past experience.
Thank you so much for having me. Part of the work that I have been doing over the last 25 years is mentoring people as they leave these ideologies and networks and worldviews. Um, and One of the things that completely stands out to me is that this is not just like an isolated case, right? That we've heard a lot, like he radicalized online alone or whatever. But we're talking about transnational networks and that have immense influence that stoke the likelihood of accelerating to violence and the utilization of violence to bring about violent white supremacist or anti-Semitic attacks to basically bring down Western civilization, and that this fits in the mold with the Christchurch shooters, with El Paso shooters, with with the Norwegian attacks that have happened. That this is an ongoing pattern that we hitherto have really been completely ineffective in combating in any meaningful way.
One of the things that infuriates people about this case, one of the many things, is that there was an interaction point, a touch point between law enforcement and this suspect. It happened more than a year ago when he wrote something about a murder-suicide, and then he did speak with people in an evaluation. He wrote about that moment. He said he was forced to wait for hours, for like 15 to 20 hours, but then the actual interview itself only lasted 15 minutes. This is from the New York Times, how they wrote about it. The suspect's newly discovered online posts also cast doubt on the thoroughness of his mental health evaluations. I had to spend 20 hours in that ER, he says, waiting for somebody to give me 15 minutes to talk to me, he wrote. This proved to me that the U.S. healthcare system is a joke. Obviously, 15 minutes not enough to discern that something like this might happen. So how do you find out something like this might happen? How do you do a better job in that touch point discovering something like this?
Um, if I'm not mistaken, that there were many touch points, that there were concerned peers, there were concerned teachers, that there had been multiple interaction points along the way. I think one of the things that we can do better is we all know what people who aren't thriving look like, and we need to include specific questions about racist and anti-Semitic beliefs, and include questions about, direct questions about their attitudes about the legitimization of utilizing violence as a tool. That is like one thing that can happen. Obviously, spending more time than 15 minutes assessing someone, if we take him at his word, which, maybe we should and maybe we shouldn't, if we take him at his word that that was only a 15-minute interaction, that, again, like that is very highly problematic. If you have someone in your life, or that, that you are assessing or whatever, and you feel like they are in fact like radicalizing to hate, violence, or dehumanization, that there are people like me out there that you can reach out to help you like guide them through this process, help you understand what you're seeing, what questions that you could be asking.
Well, I guess that raises the question of what are the signs of radicalization then? If you've had this past experience, what does it look like? What should people be paying attention for? Because oftentimes when you see something like this, people who went to class with them or knew them or they worked for them, they say, oh, he was quiet. He kind of hung out by himself. But is there anything else than that that people should be looking for, given everything he had written online that somehow evaded people?
I have found that most people really mischaracterize the people that they think are at highest risk. That they think that they're, poorly educated, they're not very intelligent, that they're, that they are like really so like identifiably socially isolated. They come from broken families, and that's really not true. Unfortunately, the signs of radicalization are the same signs of all of the ways that we, as as adults and community members, we know the people who aren't thriving. It's very easy to see people who aren't thriving. That is the highest risk. Those are the people that are at highest risk, people who feel alienated and alone, that they don't really feel like they belong anywhere, that they're struggling with a lack of agency in their life. Oftentimes, they're incredibly intelligent and like really want to know why things are the way that they are. They crave significance, feel like they don't have everything that they should have, which looks like a whole lot like other stuff. By the time you know and see signs for sure that somebody's putting 1488 on things or whatever, that they're already so incredibly far down the pipeline and on the trajectory, it's going to be incredibly hard to pull them out at that point because they are firmly entrenched in that echo chamber. And it will be it's much more difficult to help someone off ramp once they are already that far in. So for me, it's looking a few steps ahead that
Mhm.
and like, okay, what are their attitudes about violence? Are they increasing their speech about utilizing violence, about justifying
Mhm.
the use of violence, about tearing down civilization?
Shannon Martinez, thank you so much for helping us understand this, even as our attention and our focus is on the victims, the people who suffered through this and their families. Those are the people the president will be meeting with
Yes.
today in Buffalo. Shannon, thank you so much.
Thank you.